Welcome to What Would It Cost Florida with your host, Niels Decker. Today we have our special guest, Max and Ryan. I'm excited to talk to them about crypto, talk about their history here in Florida. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much, Niels. Appreciate you having us today.
Yes, thank you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, guys.
Sure. So, brother duo from New Jersey, the Northeast. We've been down here in Florida.
I'm wearing my Soprano shirt today, is paying homage to Jersey. So
Yes, I love it.
We've been down in Florida. We've been coming down here since we were little kids, spring break, winter break, and then eventually we both ended up in college here. He went to the University of Tampa. I went to University of Lynn in Boca. So then naturally after that, we just decided, hey, let's move down to Miami, which we had known, been really comfortable around, had been coming down here our whole lives. So it was a natural shift, a natural move. And then, of course, naturally the next thing is what do brothers do best is, get out there and figure it out. So then we took our development background. We had been building with our family for a little while, and we had been in previously the smart home business that we had built with our father. We left both of those, transitioned into just becoming full-time brokers, because what we realized was that we were developing, it was very hard for us to find good deals. So how are we going to make a lot of money if we couldn't get great deals? Because all the big realtors that we were working with were already giving their better deals to their bigger developers. Now we were in the, let's just say, $50 to $100 million range. So they're giving these developers, like, I'll throw some names out there, like Todd Michael Glazer, that's doing, billions of dollars, and he would get the better deals first, and then we'd be looking at the land deals or the development deals and saying, this is a fifth stringer that, this agent has sent out to all their clients, and none of them have, bid on them. And now all of a sudden it gets in our hands and we're saying, this is a crappy deal. Like, maybe there's some skin in the game here and maybe we could win. But the only way to really get the better deals was to get on the front side of the business. So then naturally we got on, became agents, partnered with Douglas Elliman, and we moved up the ranks very quickly. We became top 1% within the first 2 years. We had done the most expensive cryptocurrency deal in history. We had sold the most expensive penthouse as of recent. The cryptocurrency deal was $22.5 million. The other penthouse was the Ritz-Carlton penthouse, which we happened to have developed ourselves, bought pre-construction, and then sold it for a record price of $35 million.
That's wild.
It's crazy. It's a great story.
Yeah. There's so much here. So I want to actually want to back up first a little bit. Tell a little bit about history, because I love, you guys you're not just southeast, it's also west side from Tampa. So Tell a little bit about history of Florida and real estate.
So, like Ryan said, we've been coming down to Florida our entire lives. We come from a long lineage of entrepreneurs. Our grandfather was one of the hardest working people we know, our father also. And so, they had an appreciation for South Florida. So we would take our vacations, come down here, and, just from witnessing the beaches and just along the ocean where there were no high rises or anything prior to nowadays you drive by and you can't even slip a piece of paper through each building. There's that little of proximity. So just the evolution of seeing where Miami was and where it's at today as part of the history has been exceptional. So for us, we knew we wanted to be here in Florida. We knew our roots were here in Florida. So Ryan went to Lynn University in Boca and studied business. I went to University of Tampa and studied communication. He's a couple years older than I am, so he's been down here a little bit longer. But yeah, we both kind of put our heads together and said, you know what? We need to sacrifice our social lives and all of that up north and the past life that we had. And we need to move down here and really focus on getting down to business and figuring out how to make ourselves great.
To Max's point, sometimes you got to make the difficult decision to leave your family, go to a destination that's more beneficial for you, your future, your vision, and the things that you want to accomplish. It'd be great, but we really focus on, let's just say, the $1 million to $50 million price point, somewhere in there. So we're selling these high ticket properties. And in New Jersey, it's very difficult to find those properties. Yeah, they exist. You have to go down the shore. You have to go to Alpine and a couple other places. You find these monster houses. But, let's just say in South Florida, there are millions of dollars in real estate everywhere you look. So it only made more sense for us to centrally focus here, where we had a better shot of succeeding, versus being in a market that would have been very difficult, where we would have been doing volume of $300,000, ticket property sales versus, these 20, 30, 40, $50 million sales that really help our trajectory to get to that next level.
Yeah.
So we knew that it would be more beneficial to be in this environment.
Plus, in general,
Listen,
Miami is
yeah.
just a hub, just an incredible hub of everything going on down here. Innovation, diversity, culture. So, being down here in South Florida, we just open our door to so much because there's so much at our disposal.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And so on East Coast development wise, like when I think of it, we're looking Miami-Dade, Broward, West Palm, those huge three pockets. And on the West Coast, you have your Naples all the way up to Sarasota. You mentioned a little bit about high rises. What are some because listeners, conversations we have often too is about Southeast and Southwest. What can you maybe add a little bit about that, or from what you've seen over the years?
I'm glad you brought that up. So so Tampa. When I actually went to Tampa for half a semester, I didn't do the best there. You could say I think I made it to one class, and I hold the record there of all the records that we hold. This one's not one of my more proud moments, but I got kicked out of the school within the first 24 hours of being there.
Yeah.
So I
East
spent.
Coast was better.
Yeah. So I did a little bit better in Boca.
But you can imagine me coming into University of Tampa after Ryan had just created a name for himself and the legend that he was. Basically like Van Wilder of his time.
So basically we got to see Tampa. I got very familiar with the city because I obviously wasn't spending much time in class. So I was kind of, networking, going around the city, and I got very familiar. Now that was a totally different place than it is today. Yeah. So just as much as we saw the gentrification of Miami Beach, and let's just say Miami to Palm Beach, we also saw the same thing happen in Tampa. Tampa used to be an absolute nightmare. I mean, you would have not felt safe walking across some of the most main streets there, and now it's beautiful.
Channel Side, downtown, they've built so much. St. Pete.
Yeah.
Bill Gates sunk billions of dollars into redeveloping that entire area, so now it's almost unrecognizable.
Who knows what his motive is in doing so, but hey.
I graduated in 2017. I went back there a year ago, and it's actually mind-blowing how different the landscape is and how more modern and technologically advanced it was in comparison to when I was actually going to school there.
I think on the topic, it goes to show how much money from all over the place poured into these South Florida pockets. Not just South Florida, but, all the way up the coast. So just these Florida pockets, we'll call them, which Tampa, St. Pete, Sarasota is one. They had the big hit show on MTV, which really put that on the map. And happened to actually be a good friend of Max's in college, whose family that was. But aside from that, these pockets blew up, and there was tons of money coming in, so all the redevelopment had happened. So it not only stimulated the economy, Ron DeSantis did a very good job in charge of Florida to, make sure that these developers and all these financiers and all this money that was pouring in was going to be, one, valued and appreciated, and there was tax advantages and whatnot for these people to come pour in. But the gentrification of all these cities has been, almost night and day. So just to dial it back, because now we're, mostly in Miami to Palm Beach, it was incredible to drive through Sunny Isles, which looks like mini Dubai today, when it used to be little motels of 3 stories, and that was it. And everybody would come down here for their breaks from all over these destinations, and they'd all congregate. And you can see some of the old. There was a place called Rascal House, which a lot of locals will know.
What a classic!
That was a classic. So there's a lot of these landmark, landmark businesses and things that people had attached themselves to and fell in love with, which kept them coming back down before South Florida was what it is today. So it was nice to have gotten a little piece of that, to watch the change and the shift happen to what it is. But now you go down the Collins Ave, you look at all these spectacular buildings, Porsche, St. Regis, Ritz-Carlton, and now you see how the entire landscape has changed completely, and for the better.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing, because they've preserved some of the historic buildings, and they've kept Miami historic. And you go to Palm Beach, you feel like you kind of enter in a nostalgic city, because they kept the history and the architecture and the things that really mattered and they liked, and they protected it, and they did it in a very tasteful way to gentrify them to where they were livable for the people that are there today.
Yeah, nice. That's cool, man, to hear that whole.
So it's very cool, yeah.
And the other piece that I wanted to really speak on as well, how cool is to hear that 2 brothers working together, carrying on the family business, and speaking as well, how important it is in business to have partnerships that complement each other. So you're talking about communications and business background and schooling, and let people know on how that's worked, you know. And
Sure.
sometimes you hear too, family, don't work with family, don't, you know. I'm a big believer that you make it work through communication and learning from each other. So speak on that.
Couldn't agree anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the best thing ever is that I get to wake up every day and I get to, you know, not only do all these really cool things, but I get to do it alongside my best friend.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy to us because we were raised this way. You know, our mom really, you know, had a big impact on us, amazing woman. Our dad, very strong, you know, very successful man. So we kind of get the best of both worlds. So for us growing up, we just thought that it was customary that brothers were this close. We're like, you know, when we see families and you know, siblings that aren't very close, it's kind of strange to us because we do everything together. If I can't trust my brother, who can I trust in life?
Yeah.
So to have basically went from nothing and to be where we are now, I'm extremely grateful. I get to wake up every day and, you know,
I think Ryan said
our
it.
story.
I think Ryan said it best, but something that Ryan can't touch on because he isn't the older brother is the fact that he is the older brother. And so for me, I'm incredibly grateful for everything that he's done for me to get me to where I am today. I'm not the easiest person to work with. I'll be the first one to say it, but you know, Ryan's
Likewise.
definitely helped me open my eyes and has guided me and taught me so much, and I'm just eternally grateful. And I think that the fact that we're a two-headed monster, I always say a two-headed monster, it's not a negative connotation, but we really do complement each other. Where he lacks, I'm very strong, and vice versa. So to be able to offer that to clients and just to, you know, be who we are, it's a beautiful thing, and I don't take it for granted. And I love every day waking up and being able to take on the day, knowing that my brother, my best friend, right there with me going into battle. So
To your point, we think more people should adapt this kind of mentality because it's kind of a sad thing when you see families that are a little broken and, you know, the siblings aren't close.
And I think too, like the biggest thing with that is that, like you touched on, if you can't do it with family, then you know what will it look like with non-family? Well, you run into the same problem sort of. So looking at what internally what you're perhaps creating and how that's what the outcomes are. But that's so cool to hear, and how powerful it is because you fill the gaps along each other. And
Absolutely.
And I think too that, you know, to that other piece, because that was a loaded answer. That first one was like that then led into worlds of cryptocurrency and how you guys were already targeting, you know, your 1 million to 50 million type of clients and people that you were looking to work with. And you know, how did that kind of just stumble out of nowhere, or were you guys already invested into that world? Or talk about that.
So we grew up very privileged, you know, not a rags to riches story. So you know, we come from a good family, so we were put in. We were exposed to things most people aren't exposed to, and we were put in rooms of really prestigious, you know, people, and we knew how to work those rooms. We knew how to hold those conversations. So we had a very powerful network to begin with. We were very blessed to have that. And so for us, it was a matter of how do we take, you know, the fundamentals and the baseline of what we have, what we're given, and how do we maximize and optimize, you know, those networks and our abilities. So then we really started working out. We knew that we got along. We understood, you know, these wealthy people because we were living a similar life. So we knew that if we can converse and we can add value somewhere along the way for them, then we knew that it would have an impact on our bottom line. Absolutely. So naturally, then we say to ourselves, well, there's two of us, and you know, you live a great life, I live a great life, so we can't be going after things that aren't going to yield us enough money so that we can then go be free and treat people the way that they deserve to be treated, not like dollar bills. So for us, you know, it's very interesting for us. We'll take on clients. We just won't take on anybody because, fortunately for us, we've been blessed with the opportunity not to. So we're very selective and we work with great people and we do great deals and we make sure that everybody's happy. So it's given us the ability to hyper focus on a targeted group of people, add as much value as we can there, do good business, and it's continued to perpetuate across all boards. So for, you know, us to go back to your original question, we've had advantages in life and we've absolutely used those and leveraged them. So how did we get into the cryptocurrency as well? Was, you know, two smart guys working at each other, brothers. We're always having, you know, in-depth conversations. How can we grow? What can we do better? We're saying to ourselves, well, what's the next big thing is figuring out how to bridge that gap between this buying pool of cryptocurrency and how to convert them into property sales. You know, and at the time of the historic sale, if Bitcoin was around, let's just say 50, 60,000, the altcoins were kind of, going through a little bit of turmoil at the time.
Yeah.
So it was the first time that cryptocurrency after that monster bull run had kind of, been a little shaky. It was, people didn't know, some people were taking profits, the price was going up, it was going down a little bit. So during that deal across the prices of crypto had kind of plummeted almost 10%. So the developers were calling us every day on that deal. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? We were lucky enough to.
And you weren't seeing this across the country either. This was
nobody else was talking
here
about
in
this.
Miami.
Yeah.
So that just is another I guess way of hyping Miami up in the sense that Miami can
Miami was forward thinking with cryptocurrency.
They have their own coin or city coin as well, right? Yeah.
So the mayor's very crypto friendly. He wanted to kind of brand Miami as the natural hub for internet technologies.
Yeah.
And very crypto forward. So at that point, not only did we have the city backing us in our idea, it was that it kind of clicked. We had the right people, we figured out the recipe, and most importantly, we had the right client that trusted us and had this vision of hey, let's do this. And we did it very efficiently, very quickly. We did it in about 8 days, and that was a historic sale. Was everywhere.
Yeah, because that was one of the first actually,
that was one of the original first
One of the-
cryptos. I don't believe it was the first. I think it was within let's just say the first 5.
but it was the largest.
significantly largest. I think the second to that was like a $7 million sale. So the gap there is significant. So I mean, we plan on holding that accolade for quite some time now.
Yeah.
And actually, we're doing our best to top that, because now what we see is that the last time around, obviously we all know where stock prices are, crypto prices are now. So what we're seeing is there's going to be a new pool of buyers that are now in this cryptocurrency. And on the next bull run, there's going to be a whole pool of new people that weren't in cryptocurrency before, that were even thinking about property.
Yeah.
But now there's also going to be a whole new pool of people that have come into the business, seeing as though people get out when times are bad and more people come in. That's just the natural way markets move. So then we're saying to ourselves, now what a great time to have had this expertise and this knowledge to do it.
Yeah.
So it took us some time to figure out how to do and
Absolutely.
putting together the right people, which is part of what we offer, is that we have these networks, this all these connections to the right people to get things done, even if we don't have the specific answer ourselves.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the destination one way or another. So we're very crypto friendly too. We invest in it. We own NFTs. We're big in the business. So we had a good fundamental understanding, so we could kind of talk the language. So it wasn't like we came out of left field and had no idea. Just had this one client that knew a little bit about it.
And then on the purchase itself, so was it then sort of like we would say today, all cash, and there was no loan on that?
No, so it was all cash.
Yeah. So it was all Bitcoin cash, sort of.
I can't go into the
We
details
can't
of
disclose.
coin and some of the contingencies of the deal, but yeah, it was a cryptocurrency deal,
Cool.
basically crypto to fiat.
Yeah, because I've
Or
thought
crypto
about
to
it
wallet to
personally
wallet.
as on
We
both
can't go.
side of where that world will probably go to, and there's lots of development on there.
So to touch on
Yeah.
that, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that we'll see a lot of people, not just in this mega, crazy price point of 20, 30 million. I think we're going to see a lot of people that had, let's say, bought cryptos and they saw $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 of profit. We'll start to see those people start to utilize some of those profits and turn them into property real estate, put down their down payments, get loans against it. We can kind of touch more on that.
Yeah, and I mean, to a whole nother level, people actually buying now properties in the metasphere.
That too.
So that
Absolutely.
too was, it seemed to calm the noise around us, maybe toned down a bit now, but like you said, with all your runs, that noise will pick up again. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, listen, what goes down goes back up. What goes up comes down. That's just
Yeah.
the natural. So we look at the markets. We say, how can we position ourselves to be the strongest when things are good again?
Right.
Yeah, very cool, man. So
Yeah.
what would it cost is the question here that I wanna throw out, and let's put it in. What would it cost along the coast, or something that you want to specifically talk about, if it's the condo market or single family homes?
Sure. So primarily we focus in the multi-million-dollar price point. So a lot of those happen to be waterfront. Our family are big in boating. And so a lot of the properties that we focus on are waterfront. So to get back to your question, what would it cost? A waterfront property in Las Olas right here on one of the fingers could be, let's just say $10 million. That same house, what would it cost in Miami, would possibly be 30 million. for a, let's just say 7,000 square foot new construction on 100 feet of water, open bay, no fixed bridges, all those type of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see that sometimes it's not just about the quality of the actual home. Sometimes it's just about the actual land and where it sits, of course.
Yeah.
Which is no secret to, anybody that's probably watching this. But if it's not, it's important to understand is that, you could have a waterfront property, or let's just say a condo that's in Palm Beach versus a condo that's in Hollywood or Hallandale, and the two could aesthetically be very comparable, but the locations are completely off. So this condo in Palm Beach might be 15 million, the condo in Hallandale might be 5.
Yeah.
So it's very subjective, and it's very market driven.
Yeah, and
which
if
pocket?
it's new construction or not, there's
Right.
Exactly.
factors that are going to come in. What about West Palm or Palm?
Well, we love Palm Beach, so we set a record. We had a great client in Palm Beach, built a beautiful house on Park Ave, which is basically across the street from the Breakers, which is the most famous hotel in Palm Beach, of course.
Dynamic location.
Yeah. Stellar location. I mean, literally walking distance. And when people say walking distance, usually it's like 4 or 5 miles, 4 blocks,
No,
something
this is
like that.
steps.
This
This
is literally, as prime as it gets in Palm Beach. And we sold, I believe it was about 1,850 square feet, just teetering under 2,000, and we sold it for 5.3 million, which is unheard of. I mean, that's a crazy number. Everybody watching, you can break it down the price per foot. It's super high.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to one, how strong the market was, because not only did we sell that, we had it under contract within 24 hours, which is a testament to the build, the quality of the house, the marketing, the campaign that we had rolled out. And then on top of that, it was, okay, well, how strong is the market? How many people are here? And we ended up having 3 backup offers and having that property under contract. Now, those backup offers were for over asking. So that house was going to sell 4 times over. So we're very bullish South Florida. We're very bullish Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. I mean, it's been a nonstop trajectory. If you're buying right, you're not overpaying, and you're doing everything right. So what would it cost? What would it cost? It's more about what will you make.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Very cool, man.
Because you got to pay to play here.
You definitely do. And the other thing now that's coming up that I'm thinking about is, where, since you guys have seen before COVID, during COVID, and where we are now, and as well, like I talk about this often, how Florida is almost a little bit of a state on its own when it comes to real estate, and it feels it last of what happens nationally. Where do you guys, based on the recent history and where we're going into this year, into the following year?
The pandemic was special because a lot of CEOs and top execs from all over the country and beyond ended up taking their headquarters and moving them down here to South Florida.
Griffin, Citadel, monster companies moving.
Yeah.
I think to Max's point, COVID helped bring South Florida to where it should have been trading. Coming from New York, New Jersey, we're seeing condos that are 2,000-3,000 square feet sell for 40-50 million bucks, $4,000-$6,000 a foot, some crazy numbers.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at this beautiful Sunny Isles and some of these other majestic destinations and properties. You're like, well, why are they still selling for $1,000 a foot, $1,200 a foot? Doesn't make any sense. So what we saw was not only did they have all the advantages, relatively, Florida was the best place to be, best leadership. So what COVID did was just take the market, the South Florida market that, in my opinion, and I'm sure Max agrees with me, was trading at a discount and brought it to where it should be trading just naturally. So then, of course, COVID, did we get over, what those properties probably should have traded for? Absolutely. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of destination, and there's no real rationale. It's, I need to get out of where I am. I need to go down there. It's not so much, did I buy this the right time, the right price? There was other emotional factors that had driven people and crazy sales here. So we saw, basically in COVID, we saw Miami and these pocket markets down here in South Florida catch up to where they should have been.
Yeah.
So then you were seeing sales that were in the $4,000 a foot range, $5,000 a foot range, where a lot of these prestigious buildings and properties, these penthouses, these one-of-one properties really should have been trading to begin with. So that was, kind of the first thing. It really, the trajectory of South Florida had been caught up.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah,
so moving forward,
not the first time that I've heard that too. It's actually where it should have been, and it's always been like this. Not that it was a hidden gem, but it just never really was where it actually could have been.
It had never picked up, and it was the COVID was the catalyst that got it to where it needed to be, because then you were seeing the people from those markets that were paying $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a foot, LA, Chicago, New York, all those people migrate down, and especially, of course, the Canadians were the big part of it. You know, they had come down, and it was you know, very, it was market shocking, because now all of a sudden, you know, people were paying what these properties were really worth, and now all of a sudden we see the rest of the market catch up, and which only says to me in the future, which was, you know, the second half of your question was, where do we see it going? Well, we're very bullish South Florida. I mean, I don't think, you know, as we look to deploy our own capital, because we're not just in these as realtors, we actually put our own money up, millions of dollars, you know, we'll build, and, you know, we stick by what we feel and what we think. So as we look to deploy money in different and resources in different markets, you know, we still always kind of come back to South Florida, because it's by far the most superior market with the highest potential ROI, no matter where we go, whether it's multifamily development, you know, single family spec flips.
And ROI not just on holding, but also on cash flow.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very cool.
And where's the highest yield? You know, so if we're talking about cash flow, it's, you know, who's getting the highest yield? It's really South Florida.
Yeah. No, awesome, guys. Well, great having you guys here. I was excited about this. I knew you guys had an awesome history, so it's so cool to hear that and to dive in and let our listeners listen to that today. So thank you for being here.
We're thrilled to be here. We're very grateful
We
for you
appreciate
inviting us on here, you know, and we're happy to be a partner of Spark and to do more business together down here.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. Thank you for listening. This was What Would It Cost Florida. Until the next one.